In Grahamstown through St. John, we basically run two projects that we've been working on for about 10 years now, and it's getting better and better all the time. So I won't go into the history of that. But the main project we run, which is making a massive impact on people in the community, is the eye clinic. The eye clinic is a community eye clinic, and we concentrate specifically on people that need affordable eye care. The way we do that is we've got money from various funders, which we use to subsidize spectacles. So somebody needs a spectacle, a pair of spectacles, comes in, he gets them as cheap as we possibly can make them. But the main reason for doing that is to get the person into the eye clinic, because we can then assess them for cataracts, glaucoma, various other problems, and then send them off to have operations and so on. And that is where the sustainability of the program comes in. Basically, all our partners that are involved in this, if we look at the impact they have on the area, it's absolutely fantastic. Okay, we use local optometrists as part of the scheme there, a couple of specialists, and we found that what really makes this program work is we use the structures that are there within the Department of Health. The Department of Health do not have the manpower, they don't have the expertise to do eye testing, eye operations, and so on in smaller areas. The doctors are based, for instance, in Port Elizabeth. We're sitting in Grahamstown. We have 300, 400, 500 people that need operations. Grahamstown does not have the structures, the people to do that. But we've got a structure in place which we then use. And that is what makes it very sustainable. We link up with various people. And Grahamstown is a fantastic place, anybody who knows it. NGOs in that town actually work together. End of this month, we'll have another meeting in Grahamstown where all the NGOs will be represented. And we actually thrash out certain things as which NGO is duplicating which other NGO's functions. And is it necessary to duplicate functions? Or should we rather do something through St. John, or something through Gadra, or something through Kayasa School, or one of those? Which one fulfills the needs the best? And we can refer to those. So that is also part of our network, which actually strengthens the network even further. The coordination is very simple. I coordinate some of it. My assistant coordinates some of it. Last Tuesday I wasn't in the office. I wasn't there. She wasn't there. Our one optometrist who normally does some testing wasn't there either. But the eye clinic still ran. Another optometrist stepped in. One of my volunteers stepped up, took the lead in the eye clinic. 2 other volunteers helped, and all the patients got seen. And that is the sort of principle we run on. Very, very cost effective. Our main cost is telephone calls and some photostats and paperwork. As they say, national ad, time is money. We're very fortunate in this case that optometrists, the health department, even the ambulance services, they give freely of their time to help eye clinic patients. And they do not count the cost in that. They do that as a community service. That is what they get out of it. So probably our main resource there, people, yes, but the passion that the people have for making this work. That is absolutely fantastic. So as I've just mentioned, even if somebody drops out, we've had in the last 3-4 years, an optometrist leaves town, one retired, somebody else will take the place. And the work carries on. I think on the eye clinic, let me just give you one little story. 2 years ago, we have 288 people operated on, using a health structure that's already there, and then getting doctors from the health profession, from the provincial, Eastern Provincial health system to actually do the operations. One chap had been blind for 26 years. He was 92 years old, been blind for 26 years. The Sunday morning when his bandages came off, that's the first time he saw his granddaughter. She was 26 years old. That was the first time we saw it. The fact that he could see people around him, he could see the trees, he could see the other patients in the ward, did not count. All that counted is, I can see my granddaughter. That was an incredible story.
So,
Actually,
you're saying many people are not necessarily blind?
Yes.
they are blind. They've got cataracts. But it's such an easy operation to fix.
Yeah.
But anybody here who's had a cataract operation knows you go to your specialist in town. It's going to cost you 10,000 Rand for one eye. If you're lucky, maybe 14. You have to stay over in the hospital, that costs get added. These people get that operation for free. Taxpayer pays. But what does a cataract operation really cost? A couple hundred Rand. You know, in actual materials used, a couple hundred Rand. In the time of the specialist and the staff and the theatre staff, yeah, it adds up a few hundred Rand. But not more than 2,000. And that's taxpayers' money very well spent. So
Yeah.
if we cause taxpayers' money to be spent by running the program, sorry about that, but it helps a lot of people. Let's look at the home care. Maybe one looks at it and says it's a strange project to run together with eye clinic. But St. John is basically in the business of training first aid and home care. And we find that they do actually run together very well. Home care goes about empowering people, giving them some basic skills. We all know the education system is in dire straits. But giving people just a few basic skills actually improves their ability to find a job. Since 2003, we've probably placed 180 to 200 people in positions around the Grahamstown area. And those are people that were trained. About 30 or so work for the police, and what the police used to call soft crime, the assaults and the abuse at home. Fortunately, they've changed that. They don't call it soft crime anymore. It was soft for the men or the people perpetrating it, because I mean, obviously some men also get beaten up, but mainly the women and children were the main people who suffer. So the police, they saw that they could use some of our volunteers that we've trained in their system to do counselling, help people get grants, that sort of thing. Child welfare.
Can you move on to numbers?
Numbers. Which numbers for which one?
How many have you done in a year?
So far this year, 2009 up to now, we've done 240 cataract operations now. To go back to the eye operations, the previous year we did 288, which when I say we did it, it's a team, it's an overall team. That was done. In between, other operations get done, like this last Tuesday, some children with squints were repaired. Those we don't actually keep statistics of. It's much easier to keep stats just of the cataract operations, because it's a simple operation, it's got an immediate result. Okay? On the home care, of the first 250 people we trained between about 2003 and 2005, about 180 of them found jobs. In many cases, not permanent jobs. In many cases, they found jobs in clinics where they worked for a stipend or a subsidy, or whatever the government calls it. Once again, this program, we tried this many years ago and it didn't work too well because we couldn't place the people that we trained. We then started working together with Lakana municipality, train some of their health workers because they're responsible for the local clinics. Train some of those people that go back into the clinics and become more effective. They then see that backing up this program, supporting us in this program, is very useful. So that also helps us to get more and more training done. Okay. The other thing about both the home care and the eye care projects is we don't need huge amounts of funding to make it work. We need people who can put some time in, people who care, people who are passionate. That keeps it going. Obviously, funding helps because funding is what buys the spectacles, what buys books for people who come to do the training, buys meals for them, because people come on their home care training, they get lunch every day, get something to eat and drink and that sort of thing, which is also an added incentive in an area where there are lots of very poor people that are unemployed. So that obviously helps. But it's not that big. It's not mainly fund driven. As long as I can make enough money for St. John Grahamstown to keep the doors open, we can carry on with these projects. And at the moment we can do that because we also deliver commercial courses on first aid to various businesses which they pay for. Empowering people through the home care course. When we originally started this, I didn't think it would have the sort of impact it eventually is coming up now. But just one story once again. We had a young lady, she was about 17, 18 when she came into the training. She'd been sexually abused and abused in various ways between the ages of 4 and 14 before she got out of that situation. She came on the course, hardly opened her mouth for anything. It was very big, mild, very depressed and so on. By the end of the training, we couldn't shut her up. She was just talking and talking, and obviously it was a fantastic experience for her. She came back with some more training 2-3 years later. She started working for the Department of Health and the ambulance department. When I saw her a year or so ago, she's actually now an ambulance driver. She's gone for further training. She's a totally changed person. And in my mind, you get 1 or 2 people of that caliber through a program, and it actually makes the whole thing worth it. Okay, as I just said, improves the quality of life for people. It gives them some empowerment, gives them some idea that they can do something for themselves. One thing we tell them that first day they walk in on the course, you're not doing this course to get a certificate to stick on a wall. You're doing this course to improve yourself and pass your skills on to others. And most people take that very nicely. They actually like that idea. And then you can just end up with a quote everybody knows, and that is what drives this whole program. The passion of the people who are involved in it. The optometrists in this program do not have to run an eye clinic, but they run it because they care for the community.
Mr. William, in our notes about, you send a whole lot of patients, 300 specialists. Who then pays for that?
We've got 2 specialists who come from East London. They each will see 5 to 6 patients, so that's 12 patients a month for free. Now, if you go to that specialist, you actually pay 320 Rand before you even see it. They come and see those patients for free. Because we make present premises available for them. They come and see the clinic patients, 5 or 6 of them for free. They then see their paying patients after that. It also helps them, obviously. So they have a vested interest in that. The doctors that do the operations are mainly from Port Elizabeth Provincial Hospital. Dr. Lowe, Dr. Jacoby, and a few others. They're incredible people. They're also people that do not have to do that work if they don't want to. They've got their own money, they can put up their own practice, whatever. But they care for people, so they stay in that system.
How many people a year do you give free glasses?
Added up last week, 1,099 since the end of 2003. So it's not always totally free.
Yeah.
We give people free glasses, they break them, throw them away, they come back 2 weeks later and say, can I have more glasses? You say, sorry, this time you have to pay, and they're upset. And you say, well, I got it free last time. But if you get them to pay for a little bit, they actually look after it. School kids get spectacles for free. We work especially with the poorer schools. So we've got something like 48 schools in Grahamstown area. And a lot of them are from very poor backgrounds. Some of the schools, most of these kids are orphans anyway. They get spectacles for free, but we also always give them a little talk with them. You look after this. These are your eyes, you know, and we get a very good result from that.
Okay, Marianne?
Yeah, you've partially answered my question just in your last statement there, because it's a personal thing. I have a daughter who has an eye problem which was picked up when she was 3 years old. And for children who don't have access to that, it absolutely impacts on the quality of education. So we've been able to take our daughter for eye therapy, you know, all sorts of things. And you've just answered the question, because I said that you're operating on 97-year-olds, which is fantastic, and they're seeing for the first time. But that very early intervention with children who don't usually have access to eye care, and how severely that impacts on their spatial ability, on their ability to calculate. That's amazing. So you do children. So you're answering
where the problem comes in with children. Children need to be tested at a very early age.
Yeah.
A lot of parents do not know what to look for. A lot of teachers don't know. We've got kids that are in grade 3, and the teacher says this child can't learn. They eventually gets to the occupational therapist at the hospital. we can't find anything wrong brain-wise, etc., etc., then they come to us for the test and we find out poor eyesight. So the kid's already lost 6 years of his life, of her life.
Is there any way you can implement something in your region the way children get tested earlier?
What we do, also through volunteers, we've got 6 or 7 volunteers that are trained on doing eye screening. We don't do any, we do preschool, but they must be at the school, so at the preschool. We will then go and do a basic test on them, then we normally test them again when they're about grade 3. After that, hopefully the parents and the teachers will keep going up. But when the child has got spectacles by the time it's in grade 3, that child now is aware of the eye problem and will insist on coming back.
Correct.
I just want to challenge judges to look this morning's Cape Times. There's a picture of a classroom in a poor area, and not one of those kids has got glasses. And you will never ever find a picture of poor kids in classrooms with glasses on. And I just wonder what the average is of kids who probably need glasses.
When we test the school of the kids normally, this is a school with smallish classrooms, so they only have 30 kids in the classroom, which is crowded for the space they've got. When we probably about 10% need spectacles. What we find certain times of the year we go out and test them, half of them need eye care, especially with eye allergies. They rub their eyes, they get infected, and it's a major problem. And a lot of people don't do anything about that. They go to the local clinics and they usually get hygiene. Which yes, we've got other ways that are also cheap to handle the infection, which we will then teach them on and teach the teachers on it. To handle that, because that is another big thing we come into. And just to add something on children, because you were interested in that, Specsavers, just to mention them, they advertise in the Edgar's magazine and a few others, we will give spectacles free to children 12 years and younger. Then at the bottom they say rules and exceptions, etc., etc. apply.
Conditions.
Right? In Grahamstown, we've got a good relationship with them. We actually enforce that. If we get children into the clinic, I can't see why I should use my donations on those kids when I could use the donations on, say, slightly older kids. So we test them, write the report, and send them around to Specsavers, give them spectacles. So we've got that relationship in town, and it's the network that makes it work.
Yeah. Clever. Michelle?
I've worn glasses since I was tiny, so this is very dear to me. But I'm curious about I think you mentioned the reports about the government's response to eye care. What is happening around that? Because it's so vital to so many people. I know, I just was speaking to someone last week, her mother's been waiting 3 years, she said, for a cataract operation, and hasn't had it yet because she's waiting at the clinic and they keep telling her to come back later. What's happening around eye care? Is there a national sort of, for children, like you said, there should be, it seems like should be someone thinking about this.
There is a problem in the sense that, especially in the smaller towns, you do not have eye doctors or optometrists connected to the hospitals. Port Elizabeth has got a fantastic eye team. They've got 6 or 7 doctors, and they're totally overworked, because as they add more doctors, more and more people just come in. But in the smaller areas, there is nothing for that. The hospital in Grahamstown tried to set up a unit under the government, under some health, social worker and a health worker worked on this. The program ran for about 2 years, did fairly well, and then those people were needed in other areas within, and they got taken out. At which point, we started putting these teams together. And these teams have been doing that work. And we all say, hopefully one day the government will have everything in place in the Department of Health, then we won't have to do it. But until that time, we'll do it.
You do it forever.
Yeah, probably.
Thank you very much, Mario. The other organization that does a lot of provision of glasses to children is the Pillow Paper Health.
It works closely. Very closely.
Yeah, you see these networks. The Pillow Paper Health Train goes into the rural areas and dispenses glasses like that.